Hello, everyone. Welcome to this first episode of the Innovation Garage podcast. We have Ashish Ganu with us in the first episode. Ashish is a senior UX design and research leader with over 29 years of experience. He has worked with various companies in various sectors, and he's passionate about game design. So I thought, why not to invite Ashish for the first episode of the Innovation Garage podcast? Hello, Ashish. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, let's jump on the topic. So could you please talk about what is game design and what's the quick history of the game design industry?
Okay, so let's start with the history of game design and game development first, and then we could go into game design and what different aspects of game design are. But game design or game development has started much earlier than many people think it has. Most of the people think that it started with this simple game called Pong, where you have these two paddles on two sides of the screen and then you kind of bounce a ball. But actual games have started much before that on the mainframes of the different universities. So there were researchers who have been doing sneaking around and creating games for their own entertainment and their own research. And that has led to the popularity of computers back in the 60s and the 70s even. And so some of the games were even made on very limited hardware like oscilloscopes and the computers that used to be used for missile trajectory calculations and all. And then in 1960s, the game design, or rather the scope for creating games expanded with the introduction of the basic language in the Dartmouth University. And after that, with the beginning of the personal computers, everyone got a personal computer at home in the 80s. This exploded in the United States and in Europe. Uh, Everyone had these small copybooks where you could actually manually type in games into the computer and play them yourself. And there were many companies who also sold games on cartridges or even cassette tapes. If any of the younger listeners have seen cassette tapes and heard them, it is surprising, but games used to be stored on them and they used to be played with that. So the entire game industry exploded in 1970, 70s, late 70s, 78, 79, 80. Uh, and then since then it has been going through cycles of boom and bust. There was a bust in 1983, and then after that it has been booming. Uh, One of the interesting things I would like to tell you is that games have always seized upon very innovative ways of using your computer hardware or any advances in the technology, and they were on the forefront of any technology that can be used for gaming. People are looking for ways to kind of expand the experiences for players and maximize the hardware and the software that they had. So it has been happening. Uh, Games were one of the um, first industry to use DVDs for recording games and having very high resolution images and videos and audio sounds. And then even the usage of AR and VR has been uh, pioneered by, or at least one of very early adopters of AR and VR have been games. So that's where we are at right now. And with AI, with the advent of AI, things are taking completely different turn.
Interesting. We'll come back to the technology part. So what is the
Yeah.
current state of game design industry globally and in India? I mean,
Uh, like I said, the game design industry has been going through a cycle of boom and bust. In 1983, there was an oversupply of games and not many innovative games. So people were tired of playing the same games again and again, and the sales dropped. And at that time, the industry had to literally put or bury a lot of cartridges that they had produced in the landfill, literally. Now people are trying to just excavate them and bring them back to see what vintage games look like. But that is how bad that bust was. And then the industry slowly recovered in the late 80s, 90s, and with the advent of new technology, it has been growing. So come about 2023, games was very at a very high peak because people were tired of the COVID. What happened in the COVID, and they were tired of sitting alone at home, so they found solace in playing games. And massive online games found very became very popular at that time, and that happened till 2023. But after 2024 and 2025, uh, all the industries, the large companies like EA and Ubisoft and everyone, they started investing in games, in AAA games, and so they had like multi-million dollar budgets, like tens of millions of dollars, which actually, if you look at it, it rivals the film industry. And the kind of returns that came on that you know they got on it were not that great because uh, the content was very long. Players did not necessarily like that much content and didn't like to pay for that content. So it has been on a downturn, and 2025, late 2025 and 2026 have not really been great times right now for AAA game companies. However, having said that, I think it's a great time to be an indie game developer because of the advent of AI. You can be a solo developer, you can have a great idea, and you can use AI to develop that and prototype it very quickly. So uh, it's depending on which side of the gaming industry you are on. Um, it's a different time.
Interesting. You talked about AR, VR, and AI just few minutes ago. So, how this emerging technologies such as AR, VR, now mixed reality, extended reality, and of course AI, impacting
Hmm.
the dynamics of game design industry. I mean, the metaverse by Meta was a completely different paradigm shift. So, how do you see
Yeah.
emerging technologies impacting game design industry?
Um, Let me talk specifically about AR and VR and mixed reality. Uh, VR actually started sometime in 1999 2000 to be experimented with for games. But the equipment was very heavy, and it is difficult to adjust the eye to the VR equipment, and that is why it did not become very popular. When I was with Disney, we actually experimented with some VR games. However, at that time, it was difficult to create those games and also to play with them because of the limited hardware. With also the limitations of the hardware, it was difficult to keep the headset on your eyes for a long time and be comfortable with that. If you look at it, even today we are not used to having this kind of a headset in front of our eyes, and we typically become dizzy within 15 to 20 minutes. It's just the way the eye is constructed. And so VR gaming never really took off beyond the experimental. There are still people who do that, but it has not been as popular as Meta thought it would be when they invested in the metaverse, and that is why they had to shut down the whole metaverse thing a few months ago. Uh, au- Augmented reality has been a little different. People never saw that as a mainstream gaming experience, although there were some games like Pokemon Go,
Yeah.
which took advantage of that, and there was also on the mobiles. But again, it's not caught on mainstream. Let's see if things change with the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, if that helps
Mhm.
change things, because affordability and comfort for the eye is the key to that. So that is about AR, VR, and mixed reality. Uh, Coming to AI, I think AI is a completely different topic. There have been many controversies about AI actually. So I could go on and on about it, how the different people in the industry or different sides in the industry are looking at it. But generally, AI has been a matter or has been a subject of, mm, should I say, a lot of pushback in the gaming industry
Mhm.
right now.
So is AI enhancing the efficiency of the game creation process like it is doing for other industries as well?
Yes, if you look at it, it does. But see, in the gaming industry, the biggest thing is the assets, the visual assets, the audio assets, the music, the videos, etc. Right? And one of the biggest problems with the AI generative videos and generative audio is that it has been trained on other people's models, on other people's images, and people have not been really paid for it. So it becomes a matter of IP when somebody uses AI to create their own assets, characters, videos, etc., or even music. So it is like legitimizing piracy many times, and that is why people are not ready to accept it. Now, again, in case of code, people are more accepting towards that. The big studios are more accepting towards code because code is considered to be pretty generic that way, and it does speed up the programming. However, art side is not.
Hmm.
So that's how the divide has been.
Hmm. Okay. So we both are
Yeah.
from UX design and research industry. So what are the career opportunities for youngsters in game design industry and what skills they need to acquire?
Okay. That's an interesting one because I worked as a UX designer in the game industry a few
Mhm.
years ago. And when people ask me about that experience, I always say that is the most complete user experience that one can design because uh, it is all about engagement and it involves all the senses that you can when you are creating an experience, the audio, video, and then also the animations, split split second animations, the visuals. And unlike the enterprise UX or B2B or B2C UX, there is still a lot of scope for creativity here. It is not generalized and really optimized for usability that way. Yes, usability is very important, but so is engagement. So is extremely engaging graphics, extremely engaging imagery, right? Very innovative interfaces. So still there is a lot of scope for people to design really innovative interfaces and experiences if you are in the game design industry. So my advice for youngsters is I know it's not very easy for everyone to do that, but if you can get some experience in the game industry, uh, please do get it. It will really help your user experience design skills. Even if it is a side gig, even if it is something on the weekends, you do it for fun. It is something that you should do.
Sure. I think
And
connecting to your answer, you have also designed some games and you have some concepts. Would you like to talk about that
yeah,
or showcase something?
yeah. So yes, it is definitely I would like to talk about it because it can illustrate the experience that I just spoke about when you design games, or rather when you design the experiences for games. One of my very recent examples is a game called Word Mason, and that is a word puzzle actually. I started it on a whim to mm, to be something like Wordle but slightly different, and I wanted to see if I can make it. Now, for many years, I was trying to design games and getting some people to develop it. But as you know, many of the developers are either working for the B2B industry or the B2C industry or into AAA games. So nobody wanted to develop a small game for me. With the advent of I was actually able to prototype that game in a couple of days. So it all started with a couple of days, and when I put it online, I shared it with friends and family, and then it grew. It suddenly exploded. So I got a very small but a very loyal base of players, and they had many suggestions. And with that, that actually transformed me into not just a game designer or just a prototyper, but a full-time developer. It also made me think like a product manager, which features need to be prioritized, which features need to be uh, mm, developed soon, which features will actually create a difference for the players. So when you start creating a game, you start wearing multiple hats, that of a product manager, that of a developer, that of a UX designer, and every small change that you make in the game will affect your users' engagement, your players' engagement. And so you have to really think uh, very deeply about how to engage the users, how do you design the interfaces, how do you design the animations when you want to create a game that will be successful. So
Great.
coming to
You want
the,
to showcase? Yeah.
I think you're,
Good.
yeah, I think
Good.
you had this question about what are the skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I may speak about the skills, you will need really good skills in graphic design, visual design, um, then also in animation, and then general UX design and usability. That is an extremely important aspect of it. But also in terms of workflows, in terms of information architecture. So everything that goes into a user experience design field will be really useful. Uh, plus some more, plus some more. So if you really love the arts, you will be a real fit into the game design industry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanted to showcase any of your game, or you want to?
Yeah. So this, let me just share with you.
Mm-hmm.
I just spoke about the game that I developed very recently, right? I'm just going to show you that, and that is something that everyone can play on the mobile. It's like a 5 minute game, and people can actually hold on, play it anywhere, uh, in the morning and evening and anytime. Yeah. So this is word a game called Word Mesem that I had just mentioned when we spoke about how I started this as a 2 day prototype, and now it has developed into a game which is which has two modes in it, and you click on this, and basically there is a letter pool here, and you create words. All right. So like this, and then you also move the words to create a meta word, as we call it,
Mm-hmm.
and submit the game, and there is a score. There's a maximum score, and there is a score that you can that you see over here. So once you do that, you can submit the game, and share it with your friends on WhatsApp. This has been pretty popular amongst the little audience that I have shared the game with so far. And
Great.
you all, everyone can try and play that, uh, and tell me what you feel about it, what you think about it.
Yeah, we can share a link of this game in our comment section of the video, and then you can grow your audience and get more feedback.
Yes, that will be awesome.
Cool. I
So
think
look
we
out.
are. Sorry, sorry.
No, I just say look out for the link.
Yep, sure. So I think we are at the end of our podcast. Just you want to share any last thoughts on game design, which can be a takeaway for the audience?
Okay. Again, like I said, I restarted as a game designer because I found the tools to make it happen. And if you think that you have a game designer in you, a puzzle designer in you, I think this is the right time to start it and experiment with something on the weekends and see if it flies. It's really cheap, and you can if you can find somebody who's interested in that game, go for it.
Yeah, and you can also productize it, monetize it, and sell it as your product
Yes,
if it works out.
yes, absolutely. There are multiple ways of actually productizing the game. I think maybe we can talk about that a little bit before we leave.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Yeah. Okay. So since we talk about productizing and earning some money out of the games, the most uh, the most common type is the F2P, or the free to play game, where you monetize that through either the in-app purchases, where people buy assets and people buy more abilities, or through viewing advertisements, um, and and kind of progressing through the game. The other way is paid games, right? People can you can go on popular places like Steam or Google Games, or put your games on itch.io, and People can download them, pay you some money, or donate some money, and then you can earn some money. Now, one of the games that I just wanted to highlight before we go, is the Flappy Bird game. And if most of you don't know that Flappy Bird actually had a few $1,000 in ad revenues per day, simply because that creator made a very simple game which was very easy to play, and uh, it was very sticky, right? So
Interesting.
again, if you have a very great idea, that's how you can earn some money.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, I think it was a good conversation. I learned a lot about game design from you and wish you all the best for your game creation. And thank you so much for your time, Ashish.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks once again. It was a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.